this is Ms. V, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a nose. So let's get started.
So we'll start with applying line, a curved line in our drawing. And then this curved line, we're going to enclose a space to create the shape of a circle. Alright, so from here, then you would draw another circle inside of that circle. Notice the space, and there's a bit thin. It's a little wider than a donut circle, right? Or a little wider than the center of a donut, so be aware of that. And what we're doing there is, again, placing the shape of the nose, the ball of the nose, and here the circle in the center will represent, or is prepping you for highlight in the future when you start to shade. Okay, so now that we have our circle, the ball of the nose, you need to next be aware that at the tip of the nose, right below, we usually have a V shape of the nose, so that's what you want to draw in a little bit in here. And what is connected to the sides of the tip of the nose, when we breathe in and breathe out, all right, where does that air go through? We have our nostrils, so you're going to have to draw a little stretched out oval to represent the nostril. Now, depending on the person's nose, of course, you may or may not see the nostril on each side, or some individuals have a wider nostril, or maybe it's just the angle in which you're looking at a person. So those are some features that can change how the nose, or the structure of the nose is. Everyone's nose is different, so always be aware of that. But right now we're just drawing a guideline for nose. Later on, once you get the basics, you'll be able to shift, make things wider, thicker, narrow, and things like that. Okay, so our nostrils, right, which are the holes when you breathe in, breathe out, right, that actually has a curvature on the side. Okay, you have you have flesh on the side, you have thickness, okay, on the side, and so make sure you have that line. Okay, you can also draw a circle to help guide you with that placement of the nostril. Right, that's another technique that you can use if you think that would help you create that thickness. Okay, so there's a curve, there's thickness in the flesh on that covers or is around the nostril, the hole, so that line should curve right under that. Okay, and then we curve it in, and we do the same to the side. We curve again. Notice we're using line, looking at space, enclosing space to create shapes, looking at distance and turning that distance into the shape of circles or triangles and things like that. Okay, so there you go. You have your outline of the ball of the nose and the nostrils. Now this area here connects to the bridge of the nose, so you want to curve that just a little bit. Curve that. Okay, and then here in the center we draw two additional lines, and this is another guideline for where the highlight area should be on the bridge of the nose. I know supermodels or ladies who like to put on makeup, they tend to place the highlight area within here, and that helps make the nose look thinner. Okay, so now that you have outlined your nose, at this point you only have an outline. The next step for you to complete is to begin shading. Okay, so when you have this outline, the area where you want to shade will be the bottom part of the nose, because that's usually where you have a bit of a shadow on there, because we have the highlight areas on the tip, right, and then on the bridge. So when you're completing practices, since you don't have a reference, ideally it helps if you start shading the bottom part of the nose. That's just gonna help you give it that 3D illusion, the form of the nose. Of course, when you're drawing someone else, or when you start drawing yourself, then things change depending on the lighting of that reference, whatever that might be. In this area here where the highlight is, you also want to add a little bit more of the shading. You have some contrast there where the light hits the ball of the nose, and then you shade under that. You fade it just a little bit. Okay, and then we want to move on to, let's push that just a little bit more. So when we shade, we avoid having too many gaps between our strokes. Remember that. Okay, so here what we're going to do is we're going to shade. We're going to have a fade, a slight fade. You want to shade too dark. Slight fade. Get lighter, of course. And don't forget if the area you're shading has some sort of curve to it. When you shade, you want to follow that direction. So if there's a curve here, when you shade, you also want to shade using that direction of line. Okay, so moving on to the bridge of the nose. I'm going to fill this in first. Remember, once we start shading, you want to get rid of all these lines that you have on there. Like this one, I think I drew it a little dark. I need to remove some of that. Do your best to stroke very close together when you're shading that bridge or anything that you shade. Always do your best to shade lightly. You always want to fade, so it doesn't have to be extremely dark, but of course the edges where you have those lines, you want it to be slightly darker. And then move gradually to light, right? So this is a guideline. If your line's a little too dark, like mine, you can do at this point is erase them. And fill in with your shading. Okay, and this is the same for this side of the nose. We shade. We want to get rid of this line as well up here, right? Any and every line that we create. When we shade, should get lost with shading. And we have different degrees of grays, very light grays, mid dark grays, and really dark grays. And of course, then we have our dark shadows sometimes. But for this drawing, we really don't have much of a extremely dark shadow. The darkest area in your nose should be pretty much your nostrils. Nothing should be darker than your nostrils on here. Okay, here you have the tip of the nose. It is dark, but it's not as dark as the nostril. Okay, so gaining control, being observant of the level of your grays when you shade is also very important for you to be aware. let me make some adjustments. I just noticed that you can see this line up here, so I'm gonna erase that, dab it a little bit, lift with my eraser just a little bit. I don't want to erase the whole thing. Right. Light fade. That should look better. So there you have it. This is how you draw a nose. You start off with a circle for the ball of the nose. We then create the nostrils, right? Making sure we have that V shape at the tip, the bottom tip of the nose. We create curved lines for the flesh on the side of our nostril, which curve to the bottom. And then we have the lines that lead to the bridge of the nose, right? And those that ideally eventually guide you to the area where your eyes should be placed. Okay, so try it out. If you don't get it right the first time, try again.